Welcome back to our recap of day 2 of the Vanderbilt rape trial. When we went to the break, you were hearing testimony from earlier today from G.L. Black, Associate Dean of Students at Vanderbilt. In this clip, we're going to continue his testimony, and you will begin to hear some of the audio recordings from right after the incident. Some of those recordings are with Brandon Vandenberg. You get to hear some of what he has to say, how he described it. So let's go back now to the testimony from earlier today.
Were they all in one room together, or tell us about that?
Yes, they were all in one room, a conference room style room that we had on the floor, and they all sat in there.
All right. What, if any, process did you go through with respect to speaking to these individuals?
We called them one by one to meet individually with them to ask them questions about the weekend.
Okay. Did you have any preset order in which they were to be called?
No, I don't remember the exact order of how we called them. I know that Brandon Vandenberg, Jabari McKenzie, Brandon Banks, and Corey Beatty were the last 4, but I don't recall the exact order.
So as far as the sequence of the 9, they would have been 6, 7, 8, or 9.
Right. Correct.
And with respect to Mr. Brandon Vandenberg, do you see that individual here in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you indicate which person he is, perhaps by identifying where he's sitting and what he may be wearing?
Yes. He's over against the far wall in a V-neck sweater.
All right, as the record reflected, he has indicated the defendant, Mr. Vandenberg. Now, with respect to Mr. Vandenberg, was he interviewed by himself in the presence of one or more of the other students, or how did that go about?
No, individually.
All right. Were you recording these interviews?
Yes.
And was Mr. Vandenberg's interview recorded?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you do prior to conducting a taped interview?
We essentially called them one by one to meet with them individually and told them that we wanted to ask them some questions to gather some information about some events that had occurred over the weekend, and asked them to answer the questions to the extent that they were able, and then we turned on the recorder and went through a series of questions.
Okay, I want to ask specifically with Mr. Vandenberg, but whether it may or may not apply to all the rest of them. But in speaking with Mr. Vandenberg, did you tell him anything that you had seen on the video?
Prior to
speaking with him. In other words, did you sit him down and say, hey, here's what I've seen?
No.
Okay. Counsel has a copy of this. Go ahead, and if I could have a copy passed up.
See that far away.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's the handwritten. I've got plenty of copies.
Hard for me to see closer up than that.
You've been handed a copy of the document. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Okay. And what does that appear to be?
In addition to talking with the students, we asked them to write a written statement, and this is the statement that Brandon Vandenberg wrote.
In the sequence, was that before or after the taped interview?
That was after.
Okay. So I'm going to set that aside, but if you could just hold on to that.
Okay.
Do you recall, sir, any particulars about Mr. Vandenberg from that day, and about what time of the day it was? We know it was Tuesday the 25th, but...
I believe they arrived at our offices around 5 p.m.
Okay. Do you remember anything particular about his appearance, demeanor, actions, anything?
Nothing in particular.
Okay. And again, not being law enforcement, was he there by any means other than as a student?
No.
Okay. And Vanderbilt's policy and protocol?
Right. Correct.
Okay. Next, if I could ask I have several copies I'll pass out. This is and if I could ask this be passed to Mr. Black. Mr. Black, you referenced the interview being recorded, pardon me, and what you've been handed is do you recognize what you've been handed?
Yes.
Better be telling you. What is that?
This is a transcript of the recording.
And by the recording?
The recording of the interview with Brandon Vandenberg.
Okay, Mr. Vandenberg's interview.
Yes.
And have you had the opportunity to listen to the actual recording, compare that with the transcript that you have before you?
Yes.
And is the transcript that you have before you a fair and accurate representation of what is contained on the actual video? I mean the audio, excuse me.
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this point, I would propose to play the recording. I have prepared copies for the court reporter, additionals for counsel. Should be plenty for the jury. If I could ask those to be passed out with the court's usual admonitions.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're receiving copies of the transcript of the recording. I want you to keep in mind that the transcript is just a guide for you to follow. The actual recording is the evidence itself. So always keep that in mind. The recording is the evidence. The transcript is simply a guide. All right? Thank you, Mr. Judge.
Yes, sir. Who is the administrators? Perhaps Ms. Halstead. So we have three extras. Your Honor, I believe everyone has a copy now. With the court's permission, if I'd ask that it be played, I believe we have it set up to be played through the system.
Okay, we'll see.
This may be the first time.
Maybe.
Brandon Vandenberg, June 25th. So why don't you give me...
Whose voice is that?
That is my voice.
Okay. And the only reason I ask that is where it says VU, are you VU?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, I'm sorry.
An overview of your night on Saturday, June 22nd, starting maybe around dinner time.
I was in the dorms.
Okay. Is that Tin Roof? Do you know Tin Roof? Okay.
I met a girl there that I've seen a couple of times in the past couple of weeks.
Okay.
We ended up taking a cab back to the campus.
Okay.
And from there, we're both intoxicated and went to her dorm, her apartment.
Okay.
The village apartments.
Okay.
And tried to get in there, but her roommate wasn't there and she didn't have a key.
Okay.
And so she told me to call her roommate, so she gave me her roommate's number.
Okay.
Phone was dead. And I called her roommate, she didn't answer. So we went back to my dorm, we get in her dorm.
Okay.
And there, I was trying to help her in the dorm, and three guys helped me bring her into my dorm room.
Okay.
And then from there, she was like throwing up and stuff, and I was throwing up, and dropped her in the dorm room on the bed. I went to doing Vanderbilt's room to spend the night because I don't want to sleep in there with like to throw up. Just it was a mess.
Okay. Okay, so do you know what time you went to Tin Roof about?
Maybe 11.
Okay. And had you been drinking 11 or midnight? Okay. And had you been drinking before you left for Tin Roof? Okay. And where were you drinking beforehand?
It's some apartments.
Okay, not on campus.
No.
Okay.
But I don't know like the name or anything.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so how many drinks would you say you had before you got to Tin Roof? Okay. And were you drinking beer or mixed drinks? Tequila. Shots or mixed with something? Shots. Okay. And you got to Tin Roof 11 midnight, and what did you have to drink when you were at Tin Roof?
Drinks, I don't know what it was.
Hard liquor drinks? Okay. Did you take or use any other kind of substances on Saturday night? Okay. No drugs or anything? Okay.
So what we're hearing right now is Brandon Vandenberg's first interview about what happened, his first explanation about what happened that night. It's being done by Vanderbilt officials. We're going to take a break right now. We're going to come back and continue. It can be a little hard to hear, but it's very interesting to hear this as it played out today in court. So we'll take a break, come back and hear more of that. Be back right after this.